Hey everybody, it's Kathy. Just checking in. We're going to do a little series this week on Holy Week, talk a little bit each day about what happened according to scripture and history and what the relevance is to us today. This all started yesterday with Palm Sunday. We talked yesterday's message about the fickle faith of the people then and now. Basically, you think about it, you've got Jesus on his triumphant entry into Jerusalem on a donkey, where the kings come in on war horses. Our humble king comes in on a donkey. People are throwing their clothing and their palms. They're making a path for him, and they're cheering, Hosanna, which means, we found out yesterday, save us. And then 3 days later, the same crowd is screaming, crucify him. They had the expectation that he was coming as a conquering king, in the sense of a war king, a war against the Romans, against Roman oppression, against captivity, all of it. And when they realized that he was not, and it didn't meet their expectations, they turned their backs, they turned their faith. So it's interesting, Holy Monday, they talk about the cursing of the fig tree, the cleansing of the temple, and then the withered fig tree. I'm going to be in Mark because Mark's gospel has something that the other gospels don't have. And this is something that I learned when I was at OCU. Another student had shared it, and I was like, what? So Google it if you get a chance. It's called a Markan sandwich. And scholars have found up to 20 Markan sandwiches. There's 9 that are the most common. And the passages we're going to look at are among those. And it's really quite interesting, the way that Mark writes in a way that kind of brings things to fruition. In this case, we have the cursing of the fig tree, the cleansing of the temple, and then the withered fig tree. And even though we know they're connected because it's the gospel, but those 3 things connect in a way that the other gospel writers, they don't bring it together the same way. For me, I love the book of Mark. That is, if I were to have a favorite gospel, that would be the one. It used to be Luke because Luke was so detailed, but I really dig the Markan sandwich. So really Google it if you're into that kind of stuff. It's really neat. They're a lesson in themselves. I mean, everything connects, but he connects them in a very interesting way. When we look at that day, and let me disclaimer here, I'm going to put this in at the beginning, and I'll probably say this every day. In the same way we know that Jesus was not really born on December 25th, we do know that historical and biblical documents do set the timeline a little different as far as the week before, leading up to the crucifixion and resurrection. That is a whole study in itself that would take more than the time. It would be after midnight, so we're not going to do that tonight. But we're going to talk about the cursing of the fig tree. So it's the Markan sandwich here. So Jesus is on his way into Jerusalem, and he sees a fig tree, and it has leaves but no fruit. And Mark specifically notes it wasn't the season for figs. That is important. Jesus curses it anyway. Was he hangry? I don't know. But he curses it anyway. And that sets the scene. So when we go into the temple, Jesus is furious. He's furious. He says, you've turned this into a den of thieves. It's supposed to be a house of prayer. There are money changers. There's merchants. There's livestock being sold for sacrifice. And the thing about the temple, let me see if I can get a picture here. Yes, I can. Okay, I'm going to turn the phone around for a second. So when you're looking at the temple, hopefully you can see that on my screen. the largest part, oops, sorry, it's a touch screen. The largest part, I don't know if you can see that, it's an 8. Around there, that is the court of the Gentiles. And this border, number 9, Soreg, if I'm pronouncing that right, the Gentiles cannot pass that. They cannot get any closer to God than this court. And if you remember, the Holy of Holies was built to contain God at that time. Sorry, I got a little vertigo swinging that around. But when you think of the court of the Gentiles, it was so packed that the Gentiles couldn't even get close. So you can see why Jesus would be angry when one of his goals was to have the Jews and Gentiles unified, all worshiping his Father, the God of Israel. And he walks in and sees that even if they wanted to, the Gentiles couldn't get it close to that border because they would have to get past all of the merchandising. So they didn't have, it's like they didn't get it. Like I could see, you can see the anger. They didn't get it. And, and jumping out of this for a second, anyone who's seen the Chosen series, yes, I realize that's acting, and there's a lot of leeway given to the writers. But when Jesus wept in that scene in The Chosen, you knew he was the actor portraying Jesus. The actor portraying Jesus. I think he played it well. He played the discouragement and the disappointment that they just weren't getting it. And I think that ties into this as well. Was he weeping for Lazarus? Sure. But I think in that portrayal, I really saw that Jesus probably realized he's running out of time and they just don't get it. Back to the fig tree and so it wasn't the season for figs that Mark specifically noted. They weren't ready. The tree wasn't ready for Jesus. The people in the temple were not ready. And when they're leaving the temple and they pass that fig tree again, and it's withered, like overnight, it's withered. It's symbolic of the judgment. It's symbolic of the judgment against, not really the tree. The tree is Israel. The fig tree is Israel. It had no fruit. It was not ready for Jesus. The temple, not ready. The withered fig tree was the judgment. We have to be careful today about it. The tree was full of leaves, but no fruit. The temple was full of ritual, but no real faith. It just wasn't about the figs. It's about failed systems, and it's about expectations not being met. Now, Jesus had to deal with expectations not being met when he took that ride in, because they were expecting a king, but they were getting the Prince of Peace. And we have to deal with the expectations on us. We're to be producing fruit. It's almost, it's probably the wrong word, but it's a beautiful symbolism. Not a withered tree, but the symbolism of the judgment, of the withering, if we're not ready. It's like he's throwing a little theological shade, for lack of a thing. But so that's kind of all I've got on that. But I think it's for us today, how we should apply it and how we can reflect is, are we producing fruits? Are we ready? If Jesus walked through the door right now, what state would our temple be in? I think that's something to think about. And I think when we're reflecting on today, on Holy Monday, that is something we should pray for bringing fruit. Pray that he brings the fruit out in us. Pray that we are open to it. And just study. This is a good week to reflect. It's a good week to reflect. Can you imagine? I thought about this and I said it yesterday in the message. Imagine if you knew that you had 1 week left. I mean, I would think a lot differently. And Jesus knew full on what he was walking into. And he used that time to teach. Curse a fig tree, but rightfully so. So that's my 2 cents on Holy Monday. Again, this is a great time to reflect on to be. I used to know a pastor that said we need to be fruit inspectors, but we need to be fruit makers. We need to be making sure that our lives are producing the fruit, so that when the time does come, as we know it will, we're ready. So, again, welcome Respectful and Honest Dialogue. If you have any resources, please share them. I love to study. So we will be back tomorrow night, and we will talk about Holy Tuesday, and we'll have some more scripture to share. And again, please feel free to share anything you know. I just did a quick study on these. I got caught up in the Markan sandwich. I'm not going to lie. So I hope to see you guys back. If anyone wants to add anything, please do, because we are all learning together, and God reveals things to different people in different ways. So all commentary is welcome. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.